Let me ask you something and answer it honestly. Have you ever noticed how people used to listen to you, but now they interrupt more? How your opinions used to carry weight, but now they're brushed aside? And the strangest part is nothing big changed. There was no argument, no dramatic fallout, no clear moment where respect was lost. It just faded. If that sounds familiar, this video isn't about blaming you, and it's definitely not about blaming others. It's about understanding how respect slowly erodes, often without us even realizing it's happening. Stay with me because once you see this, you won't be able to unsee it. 1. Respect is not what we think it is. Most people think respect comes from being smart, successful, kind, helpful, but psychology shows something different. Respect is not built on what you do for people. It's built on how clearly you define yourself. People don't respect you because you're nice. They respect you because they know where you stand. And when that clarity fades, respect quietly follows. 2. The first crack: over-explaining. Let's start with one of the most common behaviors: over-explaining. This usually doesn't look dramatic. It looks like this. You make a decision, and then you explain it again, and again, and again. You say things like, "I just want to explain my side. Let me clarify so you don't misunderstand. I'm not saying no, I just mean," on the surface, this looks polite, even thoughtful. But psychologically, something else is happening. Over-explaining signals uncertainty. Not uncertainty about facts, but uncertainty about your right to decide. And when people sense that, they start testing you, not consciously, instinctively. Imagine an office meeting. You say, "I won't be able to take on this project." Someone asks why. You explain. They push back. You explain more. Suddenly, what should have been a clear boundary becomes a negotiation. Your colleague isn't being rude. They're responding to the signal you sent. That signal says, this decision is flexible, and flexible boundaries don't command respect. 3. Respect dies in negotiation zones. Here's something most people never realize. Respect disappears when boundaries become negotiable. Healthy people hear a clear no and adjust. But when you soften it, "I can't right now, but maybe later." "I'm not sure, let's see." You create a gray area, and gray areas invite pressure. This doesn't mean you should be aggressive. It means you should be still, clear, calm, finished. 4. People-pleasing, the silent respect killer. People-pleasing often comes from good intentions. You don't want conflict. You don't want tension. You don't want to disappoint. So you adjust. You adapt. You shrink. Psychology calls this self-erasure. And the problem isn't that people-pleasers are weak. The problem is that their behavior teaches others, "This person will move before I do." And humans, whether we like it or not, respond to that dynamic. Think about a friend who always says, "Whatever you want is fine." At first it feels easy. Later it feels dismissible, not because you dislike them, but because their presence doesn't register strongly. They don't occupy space, and presence is a huge part of respect. 5. Silence is often misread. Many people believe, "If I stay quiet, I'll keep the peace." But silence doesn't always communicate maturity. Sometimes it communicates absence. When you consistently don't voice discomfort, don't correct misunderstandings, don't state preferences, people don't assume you're calm. They assume you don't care, or worse, you don't matter. That's not fair, but it's how human perception works. 6. Childhood conditioning. A lot of these behaviors don't start in adulthood. They start early. In environments where expressing needs caused conflict, saying no led to guilt, speaking up meant punishment. The brain learned a rule. Safety comes from being agreeable. That rule may have protected you once, but in adult relationships, it slowly costs you respect, because adult respect requires self-definition. Think about family gatherings. There's often one person whose opinions carry weight and another who's talked over. It's rarely about intelligence. It's about who speaks with certainty and who speaks with hesitation. 7. Respect versus likability. This is uncomfortable but true. People don't always respect those they like the most. They respect those who are predictable in their boundaries. You can be kind and firm. You can be polite and clear. You don't need to raise your voice. You need to stop retreating. 8. Why people start interrupting you. Here's a subtle sign respect is slipping. People interrupt you more. This doesn't happen because they're rude. It happens because interruptions test dominance. When you stop mid-sentence and let them continue, the brain registers, I can override this person. Do that repeatedly and the pattern sticks. Notice who people wait for and who they talk over. It's rarely accidental. 9. Respect is built in stillness. One of the most powerful behaviors is this. Say your piece, then stop talking. No justification, no filler, no retreat. Stillness communicates certainty, and certainty creates respect. 10. Why changing this feels uncomfortable. When you stop over-explaining, people may react. They may say, why are you being different? You've changed. You're acting distant. That discomfort isn't a sign you're wrong. It's a sign the dynamic is adjusting, and dynamics resist change. 11. Respect versus control. Let's be clear. This is not about controlling others. It's about self-alignment. When your words, actions, and boundaries match, people respond differently, not because you demand respect, but because you embody it. 12. Small shifts that restore respect. You don't need a personality overhaul. You need small changes, fewer explanations, clear endings to sentences, calm eye contact, pausing instead of filling silence. Respect grows in subtle ways. 13. What respect actually feels like. Respect doesn't feel loud. It feels quieter, steadier, less exhausting. You stop performing. You start existing. So ask yourself, where do I explain when I don't need to? Where do I soften boundaries out of fear? Where did I learn that being agreeable equals being safe? Because respect isn't taken from you. It's often given away slowly. Before you go, think about this. 1. When was the last time you explained a decision you didn't need to justify? 2. Do people respond more to your words or your hesitation? 3. What boundary have you been afraid to enforce? Share your thoughts in the comments. Someone reading them might need that clarity today. When you stop shrinking to keep the peace, respect doesn't have to be demanded. It returns naturally.